The mother accused of killing her son, Jordan Brooks, in Palermo, stole nearly $6,000 from his Social Security checks. That's according to a new federal indictment. Good evening, I'm Matt Mulcahy.
And I'm Megan Coleman. Jordan had cerebral palsy and died at the age of 17 in his home. He was malnourished and covered in sores. As our investigative reporter Connor White explains, the Social Security Administration failed to notice they were still paying out checks for Jordan nearly a year after he died.
Oswego County Sheriff's deputies arrested Lisa and Anthony Waldron in March for the malnourishment death of Jordan Brooks. Within a month of that arrest, U.S. attorneys say Lisa Waldron received yet another Social Security check in Jordan's name, just like they say she had been doing every month since he died.
It's supposed to be used for the benefit of that specific disabled child, which would be Jordan Brooks.
Attorney Ryan McCall, who has represented SSA beneficiaries, says the challenge for prosecutors is proving the first set of charges, alleging Lisa spent over $7,000 meant for Jordan on other things while he was still alive. He says the theft of government funds should be easier. According to prosecutors, Waldron continued to collect nearly $6,000 worth of benefits after Jordan had already died.
Things do fall through the system where it isn't automatically caught, and they still continue to issue those checks.
A spokesperson for Onondaga County says the medical examiner's office, which did the autopsy, completed its duties in reporting Jordan's death in May of 2021. The Social Security Administration continued to send Waldron checks for Jordan for 11 months.
What went wrong internally with Social Security? Meaning that, did they not process it correctly? Was it a glitch in the system, which has happened from time to time?
In an audit conducted by the Office of the Inspector General, they found that SSA continued to send payments to 1,300 beneficiaries for months or even years after the agency received and recorded death information. It meant that the agency was sending around $14 million to people who were already dead.
Their payment systems were kind of disjointed from their death reporting system.
Bruce Antelisano, an attorney specializing in this field, says while this happens, it's rare. He points out the 1,300 cases represents a fraction of the millions who receive benefits, and the agency dedicates just 1% of its budget to handling fraud. In July, SSA made an update as part of a death processing redesign effort to require death information to be automatically sent to payment systems.
I wouldn't doubt that that is what caught this particular claim.
We reached out to the Social Security Administration for comment and have yet to hear back.
Well, with the announcement of Cazenovia College shutting down at the end of the school year, just under 1,000 students will have to transfer to other institutions to finish their degrees.
Our Tegan Brown spoke to one alum who's been there before and some colleges trying to offer some help. She joins us in the studio now with more details. Tegan.
Transferring schools is never easy. It's an emotional time full of uncertainty. We spoke with a student who left a different school, which was shutting down, to come to Caz, and thankfully, he graduated just in time. Cazenovia College isn't the first institution Nick Santoro has gone to that's faced closure.
We woke up on a Monday morning just saying that, just an email from our dean, I think it was, and she just said we have a whole school meeting, and myself and everybody else were just kind of confused because we didn't know the extent of the closure or if it was going to happen.
Santoro isn't talking about Cazenovia. Instead, he's talking about Southern Vermont College, which closed its doors in 2019. He ended up going to Caz, where he could continue to play baseball.
And I thought that was a perfect opportunity, as Cazenovia's a beautiful town. So I ended up accepting that offer from Coach Shad. And, during when I was there for 3 years, and, there was no talk about the school shutting down.
While Santoro graduated from Caz in 2021, current students will have to transfer just like he did.
Every student's in a different circumstance and has different needs and wants. So it's just working with them to make sure that we can get them through as quickly and as seamless as possible.
Lemoyne College is one of the partners in Cazenovia's Teach Out plan, which will help students transfer. There are also 9 other schools listed, including Damon University.
These students have been through a lot, and they have a lot of uncertainty. They have a lot of anxiety. They've got a lot of fear right now. Damon's going to do everything we can to minimize that.
Both schools said they have no cap on how many students they'll accept, and they'll do everything they can to make the transition easier. But even with that assistance, it doesn't change the fact that students are losing a place they called home.
It truly is just, heartbreaking as an alumni and not being able to, go to, an alumni baseball game. I'm not going to be able to do any of that. I'm not going to, I don't have an alma mater anymore. So it's it's really unfortunate.
As someone who's a transfer student themselves, a lot of schools will do everything they can to help. Both Lemoyne and Damon emphasized that they would accept all credits that students bring with them, and they will graduate at the same time they were supposed to graduate at Caz.
Today's court decision also says Green National has failed to fix a broken elevator at the nearby James Apartments, which hasn't operated since last year, the elevator. Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh weighed in late today, saying working in coordination with the Office of Attorney General is another example of how the city is using all of the enforcement authorities available to ensure Green National meets its responsibilities to residents and the community at all of its properties. We will not let up, the mayor says. CBS 5's Allure Lagarde is in with new information right now.
Michael, Green National has been under fire for its lack of maintenance and safety at its various buildings for years, leaving tenants wondering why they still reside in one of these apartment buildings. John Bartell is a tenant at the James, owned by Green National. He says in the building there is urine in the hallways, a lack of security, and the elevators haven't worked for a long time, which was especially difficult for him.
I don't think nothing's been done. Nothing's happened yet. I haven't seen nothing since COVID started. It's been downhill. All his properties are dumps.
A court has now sided with Attorney General Letitia James after she filed a lawsuit against the company last October for not fixing safety violations in their properties. Green National failed to fix broken elevators at the James apartment, which have not worked since October of 2021.
It's just sad for the people that pay here that have to deal with this, especially disabled. I'm a disabled veteran and I gotta walk up and down stairs.
In a statement released by the Attorney General on Tuesday, it stated, "I am pleased with today's court decision requiring Green National to clean up its act and ensure tenants have a safe and decent place to live."
Glad to see that they were following up on the situation. Clearly, Greenland is not complying with what they agreed to.
Green National owns the James, Chestnut Crossing, and the Skyline Apartments, where 93-year-old Connie Torrey was brutally murdered inside her apartment. Despite the Attorney General's pursuit, Sharon Sherman isn't sure if Green National will even pay these fines in the end.
Tenants in these buildings would like to see somebody go to jail, and that's not going to happen because these are civil matters.
So a lot of people moved out because of all the nonsense here.
Sherman says even if Green does pay these fines, there is no final resolution to the pain, trauma, and headache that many of the tenants have faced with their housing situation.
They want the properties to be sold and sold to an owner who's going to come in and address the issues.
Green National still has failed to hire an independent monitor to file monthly reports on violations being addressed. So the cost of the court resolution is still unknown.